Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing, nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips a balance in favor of fair use. Okay, these are quotes from judges about Scientology. So this is from ZenoNet, very good resource. Thank you to Tori Magoo for sharing all that. Operation Clambake presents quotes about Scientology. Justice Anderson, Supreme Court of Victoria, Australia. Scientology is evil. Its techniques are evil. Its practice is a serious threat to the community, medically, morally, and socially. And its adherents are sadly deluded and often mentally ill. Scientology is the world's largest organization of unqualified persons engaged in the practice of dangerous techniques which masquerade as mental therapy. Kenneth Robinson, British Minister of Health. The government is satisfied that Scientology is socially harmful. It alienates members of families from each other and attributes squalid and disgraceful motives to all who oppose it. Its authoritarian principles and practices are a potential menace to the personality and well-being of those so deluded as to become followers. Above all, its methods can be a serious danger to the health of those who submit to them. There is no power under existing law to prohibit the practice of Scientology, but the government has concluded that it is so objectionable that it would be right to take all steps within its power to curb its growth. We all should be asking ourselves, why was it allowed to grow? Inquiring minds want to know. Federal prosecutor's memorandum to the judge urging stiff jail sentences for 9 top leaders of Scientology who had pleaded guilty to criminal charges. The crime committed by these defendants is of a breadth and scope previously unheard of. No building, office desk, or file was safe from their snooping and prying. No individual or organization was free from their despicable, conspiratorial minds. The tools of their trades were miniature transmitters, lockpicks, secret codes, forged credentials, and any other device they found necessary to carry out their conspiratorial schemes. Justice Lady, ruling in the High Court of London. Scientology is both immoral and socially obnoxious. It is corrupt, sinister, and dangerous. It is corrupt because it is based on lies and deceit and has its real objective, money and power, for Mr. Hubbard. It is sinister because it indulges in infamous practices, both to its adherents, who do not toe the line, unquestionably, and to those who criticize it or oppose it. It is dangerous because it is out to capture people and to indoctrinate and brainwash them so they become the unquestioning captives and tools of the cult, withdrawn from ordinary thought, living in relationships with others. Judge Breckenridge, Los Angeles Superior Court. The court record is replete with evidence that Scientology is nothing in reality but a vast enterprise to extract the maximum amount of money from its adepts by pseudoscientific theories and to exercise a kind of blackmail against persons who do not wish to continue with their sect. The organization clearly is schizophrenic and paranoid, and this bizarre combination seems to be a reflection of its founder, L. Ron Hubbard. Los Angeles Superior Court, Judge Paul Breckenridge, June 1984, in the Jerry Armstrong case. In addition to violating and abusing its own members' civil rights, the organization over the years, with its fair game doctrine, has harassed and abused those persons, not in the church, whom it perceives as enemies. California Appellate Court, 2nd District, 3rd Division, July 29, 1991. Super Court Number Charlie 420153. In January 1980, fearing a raid by law enforcement agencies, Hubbard's representatives ordered the shredding of all documents showing that Hubbard controlled Scientology organizations, finance, personnel, or the property at Gilman Hot Springs. In a 2-week period, approximately 1 million pages were shredded pursuant to this order. I have to wonder, did they get penalized? I think they did. California Supreme Court, United States versus Lee, 1982. When a person is subjected to coercive persuasion, as in Scientology, without his knowledge or consent, he may develop serious and sometimes irreversible physical and psychiatric disorders, up to and including schizophrenia, self-mutilation, and bluicide. USDG Judge Leone Brinkema, 4 October 96. Memorandum Opinion RTC versus Lerma. The dispute in this case surrounds Lerma's acquisition and publication on the internet of texts that the Church of Scientology considers sacred and protects heavily from unauthorized disclosure, founded by L. Ron Hubbard. The Scientology religion attempts to explain the origin of negative spiritual forces in the world and advances techniques for improving one's own spiritual well-being. Scientologists believe that most human problems can be traced to lingering spirits of an extraterrestrial people massacred by their ruler Xenu over 75 million years ago. These spirits attach themselves by clusters to individuals in the contemporary world, causing spiritual harm and negatively influencing the lives of their hosts. Lord Denning, capable of such danger that the public interest demands that people should know what is going on. Judge Constantia Angelicae. It is an organization with medical, social, and ethical practices that are dangerous and harmful. It claims to act freely so as to draw members who subsequently undergo brainwashing by dictated ways of thinking that limit reaction capabilities. Supreme Court of Victoria, Australia, Justice Brookings, 1982. The teaching of Scientology and the practice of Scientology will result in the commission of many offenses and may well result in the commission of many others. California Ninth Circuit Appeals Court, in the Zolan case, after secret Scientology tapes were remanded from the U.S. Supreme Court. The purpose of the MCCS project was to cover up past criminal wrongdoing. The MCCS project involved the discussion in planning the future frauds against the IRS in violation of 18C USC 371. Ted Gunderson, former head of the FBI's Los Angeles office, quoted in Time, May 6, 1991. Go check him out. He did some amazing work. In my opinion, the church has one of the most effective intelligence operations in the U.S., rivaling even that of the FBI. Told you I didn't think Hubbard did that all by himself. IRS final adverse ruling regarding Church of Spiritual Technology, July 8, 1988. The California case also demonstrates inurement and continuous representations, denying control by and benefit to Mr. Hubbard, and a tenacious denial of the actual state of the organization's actual affairs in the face of overwhelming evidence establishing the true nature of the organization's operations. Such self-dealing does not lose its identity as private benefit and inurement merely because it is conducted through intermediary individuals and/or organizations. California Appellate Court, 2nd District, 7th Division. Wollersheim versus Church of Scientology of California, civil number B023193, California Super, 1986. Substantial evidence supports the conclusion Scientology leaders made the deliberate decision to ruin Wollersheim economically and possible psychologically. We do not mean to suggest Scientology's retributive program, as designed in the evidence of this case, represented a full-scale modern-day inquisition. Nevertheless, there are some parallels in purpose and effect. Fair game, like the Inquisition, targeted heretics. Other testimony established Scientology is a hierarchical organization which exhibits near paranoid attitudes toward certain institutions and individuals, in particular the government, mental health professions, disaffected members, and others who criticize the organization or its leadership. During trial, Wollersheim's experts testified Scientology's auditing and disconnect practices constituted brainwashing and thought reform, akin to what the Chinese and North Koreans practice on American prisoners of war. You guys think that's a coincidence? A religious practice which takes place in the context of this level of coercion has less religious value than one the recipient engages involuntarily. Even more significantly, it poses a greater threat to society to have coerced religious practices inflicted on its citizens. Using its position as religious leader, the church and its agents coerced Wollersheim into continuing auditing, even though his sanity was repeatedly threatened by this practice. Thus, there is adequate proof the religious practices in this instance caused real harm to the individual, and the appellant's outrageous conduct caused that harm. Church practices conducted in a coercive environment are not qualified to be voluntary religious practices entitled to First Amendment religious freedom guarantees. Well, that's important. We hold that the state has a compelling interest in allowing its citizens to recover for serious emotional injuries they suffer through religious practices they are coerced into accepting. Such conduct is too outrageous to be protected under the Constitution and too unworthy to be privileged under the law of torts. U.S. versus Kuch, 288 F as in Frank, Soup 439, 1968. Those who seek constitutional protections for their participation in an establishment of religion and freedom to practice its beliefs must not be permitted the special freedoms this special sanctuary may provide merely by adopting religious nomenclature and cynically using it as a shield to protect them when participating in antisocial conduct that otherwise stands condemned. United States versus Article or Device, etc. 333 F. Sup. 357 regarding Scientology's e-meter. The bulk of the material is replete with false medical and scientific claims devoid of any religious overlay or reference. The court's opinion directly and forcefully confronts the issue of claimed First Amendment protection by Scientology. The court then held that the practice of Scientology was secular. There you go. Commissioners of the City of Clearwater, Florida, public hearings May 5th through 10th, 1982. The Commission received documentary and testimonial evidence with respect to the operation, activities, and conduct of Scientology. Based upon the sworn testimony of witnesses, affidavits, state and federal court decisions, and miscellaneous documents reviewed and considered, the Commission made the following factual recitation. Evidentiary fact: the Church of Scientology is currently engaged in a nationwide conspiracy to impede and obstruct municipal, state, and federal taxing authorities by adopting a religious and charitable guise to avoid payment of taxes. Scientology's internal policies state, they, the public, want ministers. We will show them what ministers look like. Volume 1, Part 41. Churches are looked upon as reform groups. Therefore, we must act like a reform group. Volume 1, page 196. Scientology has nothing to do with religion. The Church did not adopt the religious guise until it was necessary to seek First Amendment protection. Volume 4, page 405. Scientology uses a religious image checklist designed to falsely portray a religious image to mislead officials. Volume 2, page 238 and 239. Church policy instructs members to lie to inquiring officials. Church policy instructs members to lie to inquiring officials. Volume 1, page 226, 227. Documentary evidence in Church of Spiritual Technology versus U.S., November 22nd, 1989. The goal of the Department of Governmental Affairs is to bring the government and hostile philosophies or societies into a state of complete compliance with the goals of Scientology. This is done by a high-level ability to control and, in its absence, by a low-level ability to overwhelm, introvert such agencies, control such agencies, LRH. The purpose of the legal officer is to help LRH handle every legal government, suit, accounting, and tax contact or action, and to bring the greatest possible confusion and loss to its enemies, LRH. Guardian Order 060971 seized an FBI authorized search of Scientology headquarters. The vital targets on which we must invest most our time are T1. Depopularizing the enemy to the point of obliteration. Sounds like Rinder. T2. Taking over the control of allegiance of the heads of proprietors of all news media. T3. Taking over the control or allegiance of key political figures. T4. Taking over the control or allegiance of those who monitor international finance. Documentary evidence in the Armstrong case. You can be merciless whenever your will is crossed, and you have the right to be merciless. LRH. California Supreme Court in United States versus Lee, 455 U.S. 252, 257, 258, 1982. When a person is subjected to coercive persuasion, as in Scientology, without his knowledge or consent, he may develop serious and sometimes irreversible physical and psychiatric disorders, up to and including schizophrenia, self-mutilation, and bluicide. So that's it, you guys. Like and subscribe if you choose. Have a good day or good night wherever you are.